Mr. President, up here! I voted for you! Wait a minute. That guy on the grassy knoll's got a gun. He's gonna shoot the president. Holy smokes, I've got to do something. All right, Lee. Time to become an American hero.
Darkmyths.org and Neopolis Media Group proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast, featuring your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths come to die. Stay tuned. Be right there.
Are we ever going to see a prosecution in the Kennedy case? No, of course not.
Will the government ever hold a news conference and some official get up and say, okay, here's what really happened? No.
But will we ever know the whole truth? I can't see any way that we ever will. I truly can't. And that saddens me.
There's too much at stake here. It's going to take another generation or two before everybody is gone from the scene.
I still don't know what happened. I still don't know who did it. I still don't know why they did it. And I don't know if I ever will. And that's a very disturbing thought.
A lot of people like to play the game, even within the research community, that we'll never know. But I think that's silly. I mean, I think that it's an empirical question, and we can know. By pulling our energies together and working together, we can make changes. I mean, we've gotten releases of documents that have rewritten the whole history. And we all do pray we're wrong. We'd rather be wrong than right. We'd rather not have to live in the world that evidence takes us to, because it's not a happy conclusion. On the other hand, if I had to live in a world where I felt that I couldn't know the truth, that I couldn't know anything, that would be disturbing to me.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is episode 131 of the Lone Gunman Podcast, and I'm your host, Rob Clark, and with me today, I am pleased to have documentary filmmaker Randy Benson with me. How you doing, Randy?
Hey, Rob. Good to talk to you. Thanks.
Hey, thank you for coming on the show. And folks, if you've been around the assassination and researching into it at all, you've heard about this film called The Searchers now for many years. It's finally here. And Randy, tell everybody, just right off the top, where they can catch it this November in Dallas.
Well, there will be a private screening at the JFK Lancer Conference at the Adolphus Hotel on Saturday the 19th at 9 p.m. And then the world premiere public screening will be on Monday, November 21st at the Texas Theater over in Oak Cliff in Dallas at 7 p.m. And that's very affordable. I'm keeping the price down to $5 for the public screening, and it should be a good night. Robert Groden, Jim DiEugenio, hopefully, and a number of other people will be there as well.
Yeah, that's awesome that you can have it in the Texas Theater. That's great. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think also, folks out there, I think John Barber his Garrison Tapes Part 2 is going to be shown there earlier in the day as well, I believe.
Wow.
I don't know if you know anything about that. I think he's doing it at 1 o'clock on Monday. So don't make no plans for Monday the 21st, people, because there's lots of great things happening at the Texas Theater. So Randy, let's talk about the Searchers, the movie itself, because when you think about researchers and people interested in the assassination and people that want to make a documentary about it, 9 out of 10 of them are going to want to focus on some portion or aspect of the evidence. What you've done is taken a closer look at some of the researchers and that are involved with the case. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you came to want to do this project.
Well, I'm an independent filmmaker here in Durham, North Carolina, and I teach at the Center for Documentary Studies at Duke University here in Durham. And most of my films have been focused on portraits of people who are kind of overlooked or marginalized in society at large. So I've always been interested in the JFK assassination and the other political assassinations of the 60s. And what interested me most was not just the case in general, just fascinating, but my big question from the very first was, who are these people that are researching this case, and why is it left up to them to do it? I mean, where is the major media? Where's our fourth estate? Where are the historians? And the more cursory reading I did, the more I realized that the people who are doing the work are just average people, and they've been maligned, marginalized, and just riddled with ad hominem attacks from mainstream academia to mainstream media, and even most independent media.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. That it falls on us to get to the truth, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, and granted, we shouldn't sit around and wait for the government to give us all the answers either, because they're not. When it comes to these assassinations and the political assassinations of the 60s as a whole, people like the CIA, they were involved in doing other things as well that they don't want the public to know about. And, when you start getting into and checking out all these documents, we know a lot more now than we did then. And you can kind of see why people were drawing the conclusions that they were drawing back in the 60s, because we didn't know a lot of what our own government was actually doing. And it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And for me, it's, what I found even crazier is that, I'm someone who I'm intellectually curious. I consider myself somewhat well-read, and I mean, not compared to people like a lot of the researchers I've interviewed and are in my film, but I made this film for my audience's me before I started this project. I was intellectually curious. I thought I knew a lot about history, but why didn't I know about the House Select Committee determination that there was a probable conspiracy? Why didn't I know that that all of the files had been locked away till the year 2030, 2035? Why didn't I know at the time that there had been a trial in the assassination of Kennedy? All these things that it's part of our history, but I didn't know. And after working on this project, I'm in academia, and I'm in these circles, and people who should know better don't know about any of that and are learning about it by watching my film. And yeah, and so that's what I found most interesting about this whole process.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating, the amount of, I guess you could call it professor taught type courses at some of these colleges that you hear about certain ones. I think Jim Mars was doing it for a while. John McAdams up in Marquette. But even earlier, this stuff should be taught in high school, and it's not being taught. It's stick to the textbooks. Learn what the that they tell you that you need to learn, and we've lost a lot of critical thinking. When it comes to history, and history being taught to our children, and even to us. I think we're about the same age. And I don't think neither one of us was alive at the time of the assassination. I was alive during the HSCA, but I was a young child. It wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
So over the course of 20 or 30 years, unless you have an interest in this stuff and you pay attention a little bit to what's going on, don't feel bad you didn't know that the HSCA concluded that there was a probable conspiracy, because a lot of people have no clue unless they have an interest in the case. Because, the news is not going to tell you this. The media is not going to tell you this. The government's not going to tell you this. And the people on the other side will say that it was just a big misunderstanding, that it was based off of, these dictabelt recordings and the sound, and that's been debunked since then. So there was no conspiracy. But you look at a lot of the work of these independent researchers and you see a much different story.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not the lesson that, and the gift that all of the researchers over the years have given us is that it's giving us an insight into how government secrecy works. And I think that's why the JFK assassination is so critical, because it really gives us the template on how to view contemporary events, and how the government covers them up, and how the mainstream media and mainstream historians don't touch it. Jim Mars taught a continuing ed course at UT Arlington, and that's great. But like you said earlier, all of this stuff should be in the textbooks. The HSCA should be in the textbook. It should be part of the narrative of the JFK assassination.
Yeah, right after the Warren Commission. But it's not.
And it should always be the alleged assassin.
Right.
Because he was never tried.
Right. I think they had to change that plaque out in front of the 6th floor museum to say that.
Yeah. And so it's not just, it shouldn't be left, it shouldn't be left up to individuals to teach whole courses. All of this should be in our mainstream history books, just as so many other events should be covered differently or more broadly. But for me, in the end, this case was left up to individuals, just people, interested, dedicated people, and they've been maligned. And of course, I include the CIA document 1035-960, which outlines how to deal with critics of the Warren Commission, and it was that CIA document from PSYOPs, and
Is that the one referencing conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, that was the very first joining of those two words in the American English lexicon. So the CIA, psychological operations, invented that phrase to malign the critics of the Warren Report. So, these individuals have been battling this from day one, and they're still battling it. And in my film, I chronicle a lot of that, how the media has gone after critics of not only the Warren Report, but other uncomfortable truths in American history, and how they're immediately written off as conspiracy theorists and nuts. But they are the people who are responsible for the JFK Records Act being passed. And they're the ones who are responsible for the 6.5 million pages of documents that have been released under the Act. And they're the ones who are still fighting to get the remaining documents released by October of next year. So we owe a great deal to the researchers. And I hope my film leaves the audience with a real indication of everything they've gone through, and the gift that they've given to our generation. And you and I and the next generation owe a lot to them, and it's incumbent upon us to kind of keep up their work.
Oh, for sure. And even I think, a lot of it is, I think Oliver Stone's film JFK was really, really important in the historical aspects of things, as far as getting these files released and generating interest again in the assassination. The HSCA, of course, did it in the late 70s. And I think, if it wasn't for Stone's film, I don't think we'd have the JFK Records Act. I honestly don't, or the ARRB, or anything else. Because even back in the 80s, that people were writing books. A lot of researchers were writing books. David Lifton and Jim Mars, and they were being maligned by the media and not really paid much attention to. And a lot of the really, really good information was coming out then, after the HSCA and after FOIA was introduced by Nixon in the early 70s, and people were getting their hands on some documents and learning more things as more people talked. And but let's tell everybody a little bit about the researches that you focused on in the film.
Okay, yeah. Well, let me see. I don't want to go back to the very beginning, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to.
He's kind of the most important.
Yeah, so I started looking into this case, being interested. It really piqued my interest after the Oliver Stone film. And of course, like so many of us, that title card at the end of the film that stated that all of the documents are locked away till the year 2035. I was shocked, and I had no idea. So that's kind of what piqued my interest. So in 2001, I'd been, in those intervening years, I'd read everything I could get my hands on. And I read the volume 1 of the Warren Report. I didn't attack all the other volumes of supporting evidence, but and the HSCA.
Well, that's a Herculean task.
Yeah, and I'm the slowest reader ever, so it was multiple summer vacations. But in 2001, I got online and saw that there was a conference in Dallas, the JFK Lancer conference, and so I flew down just to observe, just to see what this was all about, and while I was there, I found it fascinating, and unlike anything I'd expected, I kind of thought that there might be those people that they always called conspiracy theorists, but what I saw was intellectual and academic work being presented and being questioned. I mean, it was an academic enterprise,
Right.
and exciting too. Then I found out, someone told me that there was another conference across town, and the Coalition on Political Assassination Conference, run by John Judge, and at the time Bill Kelly and Mike Nurko and T. Carter and Carl Chatsky and another number of other people were, but John Judge was by far the most active member of COPE at that time,
Right.
and as he was till the day he died, and I just started in let me see, and so I made that initial contact, and just started talking to people, and then I shot the first frame of the film at John Judge's American University memorial on June 10th, 2002, where he always had a memorial to JFK's peace speech. And as we all know now, that was probably the final nail in Kennedy's coffin. He gave that speech. And then from then on, I filmed all the way up through 2013. Many interviews, and most of the Dallas conferences. I only missed two. Missed going to Dallas 2 of those years, from 2001 to what will be this year. I've only missed 2. And so I ended up going around the country and interviewing, of course, John in D.C., but also Rex Bradford up in Ipswich, Mass., who's the director of the Mary Farrell Foundation, and he's making all of those documents available online. What an incredible resource. And Josiah Thompson out in Bolinas, California, Gary Aguilar in San Francisco, Jim DiEugenio in Long Beach, Lisa Pease in LA, Robert Groden a number of times in Dallas and Midlothian, Texas, Jim Mars out on his ranch in Wise County, Texas. Where else did I go? I did interview Walt Brown up in New Jersey, and Adele Edison, Andy Winarchik of the Last Hurrah Bookshop up in Pennsylvania, and Cyril Wecht in Pittsburgh, and Mark Lane and at his home in Charlottesville, and of course Deborah Conway at her house right outside of Dallas. So, I wanted to get as much of a cross section as I could, and the biggest problem with my film is that it's impossible for me to have interviewed all the researchers that I wanted to. I mean, there are so many people out there that I would have loved to have included in my film, but it's a 90-minute film, and I have to make it interesting, and it has to move along, and So I just hope to give a general audience a cross-section of experts in different fields who have been researching the case for generations. But I do also have a whole section where I cover the first generation researchers. So Sylvia Marr, Penn Jones,
Mark Lane
again, Mae Brussel, Mary Farrell, Shirley Martin, Ray Marcus, Vince Salandria, all those early people. So
that's awesome, and of course, like you said, your movie's 90 minutes, but you're also providing, I think, for anybody interested out there. This is crazy, folks. If you go to thesearchersfilm.com and go to their store, you can order a limited edition 20 DVD box set with 37 hours of never before seen interviews with a lot of these researchers. And that's awesome that you're putting all that out there like that. I mean, it's crazy, but it's awesome,
Yeah. And these are interviews with these researchers, not just about their research in the case, but how they got started and all the roadblocks they hit and how they were attacked over the years. And most of these people had never given an interview in their home, and none of them were asked why they chose to spend their lives doing this. And it's most of these people I thought I'd interview, it'd be a 40, 45 minute, maybe an hour interview. And we're talking, some of them I interviewed for 4 or 5 hours. And the information, I think is so valuable to not just the history of this case, but, kind of a history of people who are looking into the hidden history of the United States. So I'm very proud to have been given these interviews. It took years of building trust and, gaining access and becoming friends with a majority of these researchers. And I hope the audience can find a lot of value in hearing their stories. And, in a 90-minute film, you can only include a fraction of interesting stuff, of what they have to say. So,
yeah, but it's awesome that, you're making it available as part of this box set, it's amazing. And, I would encourage everybody out there that has an interest in this case and to check it out for sure, because this is a lot of stuff that's never been seen or heard before. You're talking about the top researchers of the past, 20, 30 years up to today, and their personal journeys and stories. I mean, look, Randy, you could have done a biopic on any one of these people.
Yeah.
And still not fit in an hour and a half. But, I think it's crazy that, you managed to do what you did, but, you're offering the entire 37 hours of interviews with these people. And look, if you pre-order now until November 30th, you can save $50 off of the entire price of the DVD set, which is amazing. It's a great deal, and there's only a limited number of them. So, folks, head to thesearchersfilm.com and pre-order your box set today. Before November 30th, you can save $50, and you can get, like I said, almost 40 hours of interviews with researchers. That's amazing, Randy. It's amazing.
Wow. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And you're right. Every single one of these researchers I interviewed, and I can tell you right now, every good researcher out there, it could be a really interesting multi-hour biopic. And I'm really proud to have. I have the last interview that Mark Lane and John Judge gave. So I think it's really important to get those out, and so people can really hear their stories.
For sure. I mean, that's worth the price of admission right there. I mean, these are the giants of the case. And, to hear what they have to say and to hear their final interviews, and, I'm sure they didn't know that they were their final interviews, but it's just an amazing opportunity. And, you can't find this stuff everywhere. I mean, sure, you can scour the internet for hours. And each one of these people, John Judge has hours and hours and hours of talks and speeches, and Mark Lane does too on YouTube, and this, that, and the other. But like you said, I think part of the charm of this movie is that you actually get them in a comfortable situation in their home where they're comfortable enough to open up to you because they know you, and you've ran into them year after year, and you get them in a position where they're comfortable with where they are and who they're with, and they open up and tell you a lot of things that nobody's ever heard before.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's, there were so many great moments throughout these interviews. I think about Walt Brown takes us into his basement and shows us his train set, and we go into his office and we see all of his books and papers and things he's been given over the years from all the doctors in Parkland, and we get to see inside the Mary Farrell Foundation and see how they scan those millions of pages of documents and why it's important. And so it's wouldn't I tell you, as a filmmaker and as a documentarian, what an honor to be able to go into all these people's homes and talk to them.
That's a lot of stuff that nobody will ever be able to see. You can't just walk up to Walt Brown's house and be like, "Hey man, can I come in and check out all your stuff?" I mean, not that Walt's not a nice guy. And if you talk to him for 5 minutes, he probably would let you in to take a look around. And, this is behind the scenes stuff that normally people wouldn't ever have a chance to see. I mean, to see somebody's collection of documents and files and books and papers. And I mean, I always thought, man, could you imagine going into Mary Farrell's fireproof shed in her backyard and just seeing what was in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this film, you get a chance to do that. I mean, not necessarily into her shed, but stuff that was in her shed at one time.
Oh yeah. And in the film, I take the audience to the Pogue Library at Baylor University, where it houses now the probably the largest public access to the researchers' archives. It's really a JFK assassination researchers' archives. So all of Penn Jones' papers are there. All of Mary Farrell's papers are there. There's an effort to get all of Mae Brussels' work there. But you can go there and just see the boxes and boxes and boxes of they're still digging through Mary Farrell's boxes.
I'm sure. I mean, that's a Herculean task. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're talking millions of papers, and, you know, I don't know how he does it. You know, to be honest with you, to get all this stuff, and it's a great resource, you know, to get all this stuff scanned and online and searchable. And, you know, it's a good resource for researchers for sure to have this stuff online, and that you can, you know, call up in an instant and see what the documents actually said instead of reading what somebody said they said, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just amazing to see it. And to be able to go in there and hold the documents and hold the maps that they drew and be able to see their work and see their thinking as they worked it out in their notes. And I tell you, what a testament. And the fact that the Pogue Library is there, and we all need to support that organization as much as we can. Also, the Weisberg documents at Hood College, and of course the Hidden History Center, part of the Museum of Hidden History that John Judge had started. And you can find that online. Marilyn Tenenoff, Joe Green, and John Radcliffe. So, Dave Radcliffe. So, you know, these organizations, they are making the researchers' work available to the public, and we have to support them, or they won't be able to make those documents available to future researchers.
Yeah, I think it's great that a lot of these colleges, you know, around the country are getting a lot of these documents online, like you said, like the Pogue Library and the folks at Hood College and UVA even. I actually used the UVA stuff when it came to audio from the presidential audio tapes from the 60s. To get some of LBJ's phone calls the other day. I mean, it's just an amazing resource to have at your fingertips. And like you said, it's important to support, you know, a lot of these colleges and what they're doing, because, you know, they're not going to do it forever if they don't have help. I mean, they could decide tomorrow that it's just not worth it to, you know, house this stuff. They need the space for something else, or they need the bandwidth for something else, or, so yeah, I mean, it's important work that these folks are doing. And I also should mention, Randy, and to the folks out there, that there's a guy now, Michael Best. He's been doing a lot of work at the archives. He's actually re-indexed the entire Weisberg archives. So, and put everything together and more easy to find stuff, I should say. And they can check that out at thatonearchive.org for that, which is pretty cool, you know.
It's thatarchive.org?
thatonearchive.org.
Wow.
He's doing a ton of he basically heads over to the archives and gets on the Crest computers there and just downloads tons and tons of documents and files and posts them there for everybody to have. And it's an amazing resource. You go there every day. He's posting something new every day. I think he's selling thumb drives for like $20 with like a terabyte or two of all the JFK files that he's gotten.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a former counterintelligence specialist, and he's just dedicated his life to, Glomar Disclosure, which is what he calls his other website where he has his blog. But yeah, he's getting, FBI documents, CIA documents, and throwing them all online for everybody to read. And a lot of the stuff nobody's seen before, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll definitely check it out. And as you said, I urge everyone to check it out too. And it just keeps another group that's doing great work is the National Security Archive at George Washington University in D.C. And I don't know if you or many people in the audience saw, but just last week they got many pages of documents about the Bay of Pigs finally pried free from the CIA. And this was just last week. They're still holding on, still fighting in federal court to keep these documents away from the public.
Yeah, I mean, even Jefferson Morley has had his lawsuit trying to get a hold of the Joe Anidis files, and they won't let go of them.
Yeah. And I tell you, his work, JFK 2017, is really important because all the documents are due to be finally released at the end of October in 2017. So that's one. I think this is it's a good thing that my film is coming out now too, because as I go around the country and show the film and talk about it, that will be one of the ongoing themes of my talks, that these documents are due to be released. And right now it appears that the CIA is holding on to up to 50,000 documents still.
Wow.
In defiance of congressional order, by the way.
Yeah, because it's not that they have to release them in 2017, is that's the end date. They could have done it any time in the past 25 years. Yeah. That is just when they have to do it by, right? Right.
And it could be extended by an executive order of the president. So let's this may go on another generation.
Oh, let's hope not. And good Lord, if Hillary gets elected, wouldn't that be funny if it was her husband who actually passed the JFK Act and her that nixed it? Here we are, 20 years, 30 years later, almost.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
We'll see. I am skeptical, as is everyone who's listening right now.
Yeah.
But
let's touch on something that you were just talking about, and that's taking the film around to colleges, because I think it's very important that you're doing this, because not only will it generate interest in the younger folks, and get them interested in the case, but you're providing a window into something that they probably have no idea about whatsoever. And I think in doing that, you're going to be doing a great thing as far as getting people interested in the case, especially the younger folks, because they're not going to get it from anywhere else.
Oh yeah, I think so. And I'm kind of, I've had films in film festivals, and I've gotten distribution. But the reception when I've shown just little works in progress of this film at universities, the turnout has been just crazy. 300, 400 people. And if you get that at a film festival, you just don't get that at film festivals. And I'm kind of taking, I think I'm going to take the original Mark Lane route and take it on the road, like he took the Zapruder film in his presentations in the 60s and early 70s. Take it around the country and get it in front of university audiences. And, he changed a whole generation of how Americans view government secrecy by doing that. And maybe this will add another perspective to what young people are learning in school these days.
Oh, for sure. Because hopefully some of the faculty will get a chance to see it as well. And maybe it'll start coming up on their radar a little bit as to what they, reflect in their teaching with part of the history courses and everything too.
And they don't teach. I include a lot on the church committee because the media is, I think, a huge piece of the case, and so I cover it in my film. And in the universities, most faculty members don't know anything about the church committee and what was revealed. And I think that's critical in understanding our history, and especially understanding the Kennedy assassination and how it's been covered. So yeah, I'm hoping to be able to add a little bit of perspective to what people are learning, and hopefully we can inspire people to research more.
Oh, for sure. And just to take it back to the searchers, I think people that dedicate their lives, as many of these folks have, to their search for the truth and to uncovering, the government secrecy surrounding the case, it's got to take a toll on their personal lives, affect their family, folks around them. Speak a little bit about that, with a couple of these folks.
Oh, the personal price people have paid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, every single researcher had to face that at one time or another in their lives. From being marginalized. If they were in universities, a lot were immediately shunned by their colleagues. So the professional price most people paid was incredible. Just a few years ago, Cyril Wecht, faced Bush put all of his political appointees to really take him down, and while their case was just about some errant phone calls that actually never happened, they seized all of his JFK files. And I think John Judge is a great example of someone who paid a dear price for researching the case and in all of the political assassinations of the 60s and 70s. I tell you, that guy paid the price for all of us. When he died, we lost a good friend and a resource, just a walking encyclopedia of parapolitics in the United States. He fought the good fight, man, from the time he was a kid all the way till the time he died.
And he was an enigmatic personality. He had a way with just how he carried himself and how he spoke, which made him all the more engaging and interesting. He wasn't some, stuffy old dude with his shoulder pads and his elbow pads and his pipe, up there droning on, monotonously. I mean, when you heard him talk, you wanted to listen to what he had to say,
Yeah. And I tell you, one reason it took me so long, I'm convinced one reason it took me so long to make this film is because I would find myself just watching the interviews with him on my system and forgetting about editing. I just listen to this interview and spend a little time with John Judge or Tink Thompson or Jim DiEugenio, just listening to them talk. And I'd have to snap out of it and get back to work. But I think about this all the time, that I feel like I've experienced through the course of making this film a little bit, just a little bit of what the researchers have experienced. I never expected this to be a lifetime project of mine. I thought it was going to be a couple-year project, really what I thought would have been well researched and honest and fair, but I'd be done with it in a couple years. But
15 years later,
15 years later, here I am, and it's a case that I don't think I'll ever leave. I'll make other films on different subjects, but I will revisit this case and I will follow it diligently every day like I have the last 15 years. And over the course of making this film, both my parents have died, my grandmother died, I got married, I met my wife and fell in love and got married, and we've had 2 kids and bought a house and dealt with health issues and come out the other side. And all the while, every single day, I think about these researchers and the case. Every year for the last 15 years, throughout all of these life events, I've thought about this case and thought about these individuals. So I understand, I think, what they've gone through over these years. Not fully, because they've paid a much bigger price than I have, certainly. But I think I understand what they've gone through.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't agree with everything all these people say, you gotta respect the dedication to the case and to the truth. Everybody's not gonna agree on things, and I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Oh yeah.
But on a personal level, just from somebody who's interested in the case, look, I wish I could dedicate my life to doing this and looking into the case. But life happens. You got other things to worry about. But those that do, I got nothing but respect for them. All these people in your film, all these researchers, have done that. They've dedicated a good portion of their life to researching the case and finding the truth. And you just got to respect it. I don't know how to put it any more bluntly than that. Like I said, even if you don't agree with everything they say, you got to respect what they're doing. Like, just for instance, Robert Groden, for somebody to do what he's done, he's responsible for all kinds of important things, such as getting the Zapruder film shown on national television. He was part of the photography panel for the HSCA. He was a consultant on Oliver Stone's movie. But he's been a dedicated presence, almost on a daily basis in Dealey Plaza for the past, 30 years, and dealt with all kinds of adversity from the city and the museum. But he still shows up and he still talks to people about the case. And you got to respect that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And, I like to talk about Groden specifically, because not only has he given up time with his family and faced all of that adversity in Dallas, but the work that he did on the Zapruder film, the image stabilization, he pioneered that. I mean, it was Groden who did that. And I'm convinced that had he done that work on any other film, that guy would have been honored at the highest level, like an Academy Award in science and technology for his contributions in the science of filmmaking. But
well, that's called Groden scoping, isn't it? Named after him.
It's called Grodenscope. Yeah. And yet he's just forgotten because he did it on this film. Had he done it on some NASA films or, on some of the early documentary films, that guy would be known in professional filmmaking circles for the contributions he made. But, he chose to give us an intellectual gift, and because of it, he's faced nothing but difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, he's also responsible for, helping to clean up some of the imagery, some of the photos and other films as well, not just as a pruder. I mean, he's helped clean up, and blow up portions and clean up images. And, this is way before Photoshop, to the best of his ability that he had then. But, it's just amazing his contributions to the case. And, he's often just a forgotten old guy sitting in Dealey Plaza, these days.
Yeah, there was a time that I'd gone for a conference, and I was filming most of the conferences. And at one time we were John Judge, Robert Groden, Joe Green, and I were driving from Dallas to Baylor to go to the Pogue Library. And we stopped at a Starbucks somewhere between some in the in the hills of Texas, somewhere between Dallas and Baylor. And we were walking into the Starbucks, and Joe Green and I were following, and Joe wrote about this in one of his books. But we looked up and realized that we were walking with the Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux of the political assassination world. And they were just walking in, and no one knew who they were. No one knew the contribution to American history that they had made, except us. We were right behind them, walking in, going, people around us should know who these people are and what they've done for us.
Yeah, it should be like Elvis and Michael Jackson walking in, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together.
Yeah. Yeah, if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was a Starbucks, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure I think they've been cited at Starbucks since they passed, so it's maybe possible.
That's true.
Well, Randy, man, I appreciate you coming on, and I really hope the best for your film. And I know you've done a great job with it. Just from watching the trailer, man, you got me. I mean, when that sympathy for the devil hits, it's like, wow, okay, here we go.
All right. Well, I tell you, it was an honor to make it, and I'm just so thrilled for people to be able to see it and for us to talk about it. And the subject is important, but more than anything, I think it's important for people to know that there were individuals who sacrificed their lives for us, for the truth to get out. So I really appreciate you having me on and talking about the movie.
Oh, no problem. Now, if people want to follow you on social media, Facebook and Twitter, stuff like that, to keep abreast of what's going on with you, how can they do that?
Oh, yeah. Well, The Searchers Film is on Facebook, Twitter, and you can always find me right on thesearchersfilm.com, and all the social media links are there. My Facebook is The Searchers Film, and the Twitter handle is Searchers Film. So
at Searchers Film.
Yep.
Awesome. And like I said, I'll put up links for over on TLG Podcast to get to your website and stuff like that. They can watch the trailer at thesearchersfilm.com for the movie. And also at that website, click the little more button at the top, and it will take you to the store where you can go ahead and pre-order your limited edition 20 DVD box set, including 37 hours of never-before-seen interviews with a lot of these prominent and preeminent assassination researchers and scholars of our time. A lot of these folks have PhDs and MDs and JDs behind their name. So yeah, and if you do it now before November 30th, pre-order this box set, you can save $50. And I highly recommend that you do that. I mean, this is a great price for a 20 DVD box set of 40 hours of never before seen interviews. And Randy Benson, thank you so much for bringing it to the world, man, and doing what you did. And I cannot wait to see this film.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Rob. I appreciate it. And I'll let you know, and just keep checking out the website, and I'll make sure the outreach is there for upcoming screenings. And Dallas is the first, but hopefully over the next year, I'll be coming to a theater near you.
Yeah, or a college near you. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Randy, thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it.
No problem. You hang on the line for me. Folks, head over to tlgpodcast.com, and I'll put up links for everything we talked about here. And make sure, if you're in Dallas this year, check out the film. If you got a ticket to Lancer, you're going to see the film. It is sold out. The conference at Lancer is sold out this year. So Texas Theater might be your next best bet to see it until Randy gets to your town, unless you go ahead and get yourself this DVD box set, which I highly recommend. That's it for now, people. Some bitches in the can, beamed up the satellite down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy. Peace.